Okay, we are live. Good evening, Tewksbury. It is 6:06 p.m. on Thursday, August 19th, and I'd like to call this meeting of the Tewksbury Board of Health to order. We have 4 members here present physically, and then our 5th member, Dr. Bichetti, is connected by phone. So we can still do virtual or hybrid meetings. So on the agenda tonight, we have a short agenda. First thing I'd like to cover is approval of minutes back from our May 20th, 2021, which was the last time that we had a regular monthly meetings. We had no meetings in June or July. So I know the minutes for the meeting that both myself and Clerk Zeroulis had reviewed were submitted to you folks, I think about 2 weeks ago. Does anyone have any comments or questions or edits on the minutes as presented?
None here, Mr. Chairman.
Vice Chair has no comments.
Dr. Bichetti? Any comments or edits to the minutes from the May 20th meeting?
Hearing none.
So make sure he can hear us.
Twice if you agree.
Dr. Bichetti, can you hear us?
Hello?
Okay. Now, if you're able to hear us, we were just taking a vote, or I was polling the members to see if anyone had any comments or questions or edits on the minutes in the May 20th, 2021 meeting, and wasn't sure if you had any comments.
No, I don't. I think we should be fine. I apologize, I didn't hear it, but I reviewed them and I didn't have any comments.
Okay. Thank you. So hearing no comments, someone like to make a motion to approve the minutes as submitted?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as submitted from May 20th.
Okay, does someone like to second the motion?
I'll second the motion.
Okay. So the motion's been put forth and seconded to approve the minutes of the May 20th, 2021 meeting as submitted. We'll do a 2-part vote, so all those that are present in the meeting signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And Dr. Bichetti,
Aye.
your vote? Okay. Chair vote.
Aye.
Okay, we'll get your aye vote. And
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well, so that motion carries unanimously 5-0. Okay. New business, we have Angelina Canetta, body art apprentice, Route 38 Tattoo, 2297 Main Street to meet the board. Ms. Canetta will be apprenticing with Todd Arsenal at Route 38 Tattoo. So if you folks would come forward. And you're coming here pretty frequently. Is this part of an advertising campaign by chance? Is this part of an advertising campaign? Because you seem to be here like monthly. Okay. So we have received the packet from the director with the application. And again, for someone that's coming in for an apprentice, there's no board approval. It's just a quick meet and greet, just to make sure that you understand. And usually our quiz master, Dr. Bichetti, will be here to quiz you and make sure that he was comfortable with your knowledge of safety protocols, but he may chime in from the road tonight with a question or two, but this is very informal tonight.
Okay.
So if your boss knows the procedure, but if you just want to fill out the sign-in form, unless you've already done it, and then we'll just have you state your name and address for the record into the microphone.
Okay. Angelina Canetta, 93R Ellisville Green, Plymouth, Massachusetts.
Okay. So, Director, anything you'd like to start us off with?
So, reviewing it, Angelina completed the Wallace course as required by the board, and she had all other paperwork submitted as well.
Okay. And I noticed, which is a good thing, that There was an additional training certificate that I don't remember seeing from other folks before. That was entitled 8-Hour Skin Care, Skin Disease Identification, Preparation, Sterilization, and Tattoo Aftercare Training, which is something above and beyond what we require. So I was appreciative to see that, and I'm assuming it's something new you've added in, since I don't remember seeing that before.
Yes, do I have to say my name?
Yeah, just,
I'm Todd Arsenal, owner of Route 38 Tattoo. Excuse my voice, I have to see a throat specialist. It's been a month. But yes, so Wallace Training actually added a few things to complete a full 40-hour course. And we spoke about a few different things he was going to put in there. And then, yes, that's what he's come up with. I'm pretty happy with it.
okay, well, I compliment you for adding that.
Thank you.
Okay, so board members. Any comments or questions?
No, I think that was great that she had that in addition to what we asked. You're going to drive from Plymouth?
Oh,
Or
well,
are you moving?
I'm
closer?
hopefully getting an apartment
Awesome.
closer soon, so.
Good, good. Oh, well, welcome to Tewksbury.
Thank you.
I've known her father since
Since she
30
was this
years.
big?
And if she works as half as hard as he does. So
Excellent.
He's very good, very good, very good man. And she already does. She's been with us for about almost a year already, right?
Like 9 months probably.
9 months.
Great.
Just being around everything. It took a different approach with her because she's never done it. So she's just been around everything, just working the desk and everything for a good 9 months.
So look at the bright side. If this doesn't work out for you there in the tattoo parlor, just go down the street and he'll hire you at the bakery.
Awesome.
We already discussed that actually. Because she loves to cook and loves to bake.
And Dr. Machete, any questions for our new apprentice here?
Well, I wish you good luck. You're working and you're going to be apprenticing in what I consider after Todd Arsenault has proven his commitment to trying to be the best of the best in the community. I wish you good luck. I'm sure that I know what Todd expects of his people after the past few years, since Todd was the first licensed tattoo practitioner that the town of Tewksbury had in Route 38 Tattoo. So I would assume that you're very comfortable, Angelina, with all the protocols and procedures for infection control. And I know you're willing to learn more with what Todd has to teach. He's a great apprentice. And I can say that I'm very comfortable what Todd has proven to us as a Board of Health and in the interest of public safety, how he it always exceeds what is required. So I just wish you the best with under great tutelage of Todd and the rest of the Route 38 tattoo artists that have become an asset to our community for people seeking those services. So welcome aboard and good luck in your apprenticeship.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that was it. As painless as that.
Awesome.
Much easier than going to the dentist.
No votes, just. All right, thank you
Yep.
very much, everyone.
Thank
And
you.
I hope to see you soon, probably at the beginning of the year, but we'll see you soon.
All right.
Good luck. Have a great night.
Good luck. Okay, moving on. Old business. We had 2 items on the agenda tonight for old business. First is 199 Marston Street, Olivera Farm Custom Slaughterhouse, owner Dennis Olivera, update and discussion on post-public hearing progress. We're going to look to continue this to a date certain. I put this on just because when we were last covering this at our, I think, March or April 2020 meeting, we put a pause on that because COVID had reared its ugly head, and the consultant that was engaged at the time was not going to be able to travel anywhere to check the status of how training would be done and to follow up with that. So now that things are over or recited greatly, I just want to get it back in the agenda, but we will just continue that to a date certain. So the other item on old business is, it's more cleaning house. Under the body art regulation, discussion whether to continue the moratorium and new body art establishment applications. when we had made the last motion to extend the body art regulation, that was to be timed with the public health emergency, but that went away in mid-June. And so now this is more of a housekeeping because we didn't meet in June or July. So we just wanted to take this up tonight and see whether we want to keep the moratorium on new body art establishment applications or just to let that one sunset and we can end that moratorium. One of the reasons we put the moratorium in place and first was that we were hoping to try to get the new body art regulation completed. But we haven't been able to get to work on that. So I just leave it up to board members, and I'll start with you, Dr. Bichetti. Your thoughts on whether we continue the moratorium or it's time we can sunset it?
I think my recommendation would be to continue it just right now with the situation going on with COVID-19, and if there's going to be any additional requirements that may come about. I hate to be delaying things, but at this stage of the game, things have been in such flux, and I think currently that we seem to have had no issues coming up with the current licensees we have in place, and I just would feel more comfortable delaying or having the moratorium in place a little longer till we get a better handle. We've had a tough 18 months, that's part of it, and I just don't, right now I have my personal thoughts of which way things are going, and I hope they go that way, but because things are in a state of flux, I would recommend that we keep the moratorium on for a little longer until we see what the next few months, bring us. And I'm afraid that if it does take a turn for the worse, there may be some additional changes that we might want to incorporate into the plans. And I'd rather have a more sure footing for where we are. I think everything was fine up until this point, the last 18 months, but right now there's been just a lot of misinformation, confusing information, accurate information, and I want to make sure as we seem to do well as a board and have some great artists come in and commit to it, but I just am reluctant to have the moratorium be dropped at this stage of the game. I think that we'll have a better handle on it within the next few months, and we can make a decision, maybe start effective on the new year when new licenses come about. That would be my personal recommendation, and for the rest of the board's deliverance and see what they think. But I would like to hold on to the moratorium just a little longer.
Okay, well, thank you for sharing us your very detailed opinion. Gives us good insight. And I forgot to ask the director, this moratorium has not negatively impacted any potential businesses from starting up, correct? There's no applications pending?
No, we had one person inquire, but I haven't heard from them in several months, so.
Okay, and if I remember when you were mentioning that would sort of be a sole proprietor, so it wasn't like we were holding up a whole large business from coming in. Okay.
No.
Any other board members care to weigh in?
I only would weigh in that if we take no action, the moratorium will continue, will it not?
I think in how it had been written before, it was, we were going to have it extend until the public health emergency no longer existed. And the governor did away with that, I think, on June 15th.
June 29th.
So we just wanted to
In
be
that-
proper.
In that case, I would be in favor of continuing on with the moratorium under the same reasoning that Dr. Bichetti advanced.
Yeah, so we'd have it extend through the end of the calendar year then.
Correct.
I am also in favor of continuing.
Okay, Mr. Rue?
I agree with all of my board members.
Okay, so if someone would like to put that into a motion?
Motion to continue the moratorium until the end of the year with a reconsideration in the first meeting after the end of the year.
Okay, and willing to second the motion?
Second that?
I'll second it. Oh, thank you. Sorry, Maria.
It's okay.
That's good. It's hard to see when you're on the phone. So I will, we had the motion put forth and seconded, so we'll now take a vote. So all those in favor of extending the moratorium until the end of the calendar year, signify by saying aye for the folks present.
Aye.
Aye.
I'll get you in 1 second, Dr. Shea. So we have,
Vice Chair, aye.
okay. Dr. Bichetti? Your vote?
Aye.
Okay. Chair votes aye as well, so the motion carries unanimously, 5-0. It was much easier doing the votes when we were either all here or all virtual. Okay. That concludes old business, and I think between the time we spent here last night and tonight, we'll make up for a normal meeting time, so. Discussion. I don't see we have anything else to add for discussion, so director reports, and then there'll be one thing we'll bring up under that.
So the food consultant, I have an update. She's done 19 inspections right now, currently focusing on the higher risk levels, the fours, which would require more inspections frequently throughout the year. She's done 4 re-inspections and follow-ups. So far, everything's been going well, nothing too bad, no closures or anything like that, so pretty happy with that. She seems to be plugging away, doing mostly Wednesdays and Friday inspections. So that's the update on that. If anyone has any questions. Nope.
What was considered the high risk, Shannon? I might have missed it.
So the high risk
Tony, I'm
is
sorry.
a risk level 4, which will require 4 inspections a year, where we have not really been out in the field the past 18 months. Those are the focus right now, just so we can try to get back into getting them more routinely inspected.
Okay, thank you.
And then to dovetail with that, because you and I have had conversations, and we and the board have had conversations at prior meetings about, and I think one of the things that you're sharing with me is that there's a continued finding of people at food establishments don't necessarily know how to make sanitizer the proper strength or some of the other basics that having someone with ServSafe certification
Right.
on site would be able to help address. And I think we as a board have talked before about whether we're getting to the point that we want to look at requiring a ServSafe certified person on each shift at the food establishments. So I just more wanted to bring that for an open discussion tonight about people's thoughts on that.
From a financial standpoint, as a former operator, the cost for compliance with food safe and food certification safety is minuscule. The benefit by magnitude is enormous. So I don't think we would be burdening the economic development of Tewksbury by requiring a ServSafe certified person on site while food is being served. In my opinion, and I think that as it relates to issue 2, that a YouTube video on how to formulate sanitizer, and whether that's through a dispenser, tablet, or otherwise, is in order, and it should be available 24 hours a day through YouTube or some other media, so that in the event of any confusion, doubt, that resource could be tapped immediately, because it is such a great concern that it piles on to 2 days of cleaning. When you have sanitizer that's under strength or over strength, it's used for 2 days, because that's usually about the amount that you make, unless you're doing it in a tub or in a 3-bay sink. So my feeling is that on issue number 2, having some sort of resource available on our website or otherwise is imperative.
Okay. Any of the board members?
May I
like to-
weigh in?
Go right ahead.
As another person that has taken the Serve Safe class, just so that I would understand what we are requesting people to do, I agree with Member Scarano, Attorney Scarano, that we don't think it will be burdening the facilities that food service businesses by having someone qualified. The videos are great. As we've learned in the past year, and from, as I said, I'm not one to tolerate excuses. When someone's in the business of doing something, they should know what they're doing. And unfortunately, we've had, during my tenure, we've had instances where people were telling us they were in business for long periods of time and they know how to do it. But yet upon inspection by our Board of Health agent, it was clearly evident they weren't after saying so many years of doing it. So I agree with Attorney Scarano and Member Scarano, I don't believe it's going to be a big burden to have someone Serve Safe qualified on each shift. And I believe that the additional aids, as Bob was suggesting, on YouTube, how to mix sanitizer, basic everyday, the ABCs of running a business are important, because the ramifications of a failure or a breach far outweigh the minimal cost of having someone available. And as is always the case, practice makes perfect. So I'm in agreement with Mr. Scarano that it's a minimal expense with far-reaching and long-term benefits. And I think by posting maybe some resources for, should someone forget exactly what's going on, they can, I like to say, be quickly recalibrated, because part of our whole goal is to have businesses know what their responsibilities are to protect the public, whatever business they're in, be they tattoo artists, be they restaurateurs, and they need to self-monitor, because we're only there to trust and verify. So, as I said, I do believe Mrs. Scarano's suggestions are very valid, and I'm in agreement with it, and I don't think it will burden the local business members severely, and I do think the benefits far outweigh any of the potential concerns they may have. And sadly, we have learned this in the past. So I'm in favor of having someone Serve Safe on board all the time, each shift, at least one person. Someone has to be the captain on each shift.
Okay, thank you. And any other comments or suggestions?
Are we looking to add that to the permit process to identify the Serve Safe qualified person that's going to be,
I would believe it would have to be a regulation.
Well, one of the things that we can do, which other towns have done, is that, I think Berwick was an example, they had a very brief regulation where essentially they said they agreed to enforce all the state food code, the state regulation, and then they said with the exception of, and then they put in what their exceptions were, and one was on the penalty clause, so that they put some teeth into it, and that's where we could add into this ourselves of not having to do our own rewrite of the food reg, but just say we plan to follow the overarching reg, but in addition to that, we're going to add these other stipulations
for the permit or the regulation?
for the regulation.
And that's a straight adoption of the state code and a restatement
Yeah.
of the conditions that we feel are relevant under the state code. I would also add that a phase-in period is required
Yeah.
to bring compliance with this. So if we were to consider adopting the state code, that we would condition it with the restatement, and we would further condition it with the phase-in period for compliance. And maybe that could be tied into renewals for 2023 or whatever we felt. I don't think a year to do this is unreasonable. It just takes that amount of time to get through this thing, sign up for the course, take the exam, and be familiar with it. I think Ray's point is a good one. Adopt that portion of the state code that is relevant and condition it so that it's customized to our needs, and phase in the requirement over a reasonable period of time to give people and businesses the time to adjust.
And then there's another part to this, and that is the training side. And I know we have the grant money between us and Tingsboro and Billerica. And Director and I talked about utilizing some of those funds to have someone provide serve-safe training to all 3 member communities, and to provide those at a couple of dates and times, with the idea that if we can get as many people that be needing that training in our 3 communities, at least they're all getting the same training. Because if they all go off on their own, you don't know what type of training they're getting, because we've run into that with other things. You can do everything online and just say you passed, and you don't really know anything. So we figured it would be something we might look at, of trying to standardize the training to make sure that people are getting trained, especially in things that have been encountered in our communities.
It's becoming more relevant, and I think it was revealed last night that the city of Boston granted their first at-home kitchen permit. So COVID and its effects have pushed people into their own kitchens to continue their businesses where it's unaffordable or just plain closed, that they don't have the facilities. And my understanding is the city recognizes that this may be something that's coming their way more often, and certainly it could be something that's coming our way. So we should be considering this type of training as a cross-section, not only for businesses that up and down Route 38 and otherwise, but the fact that some people are disadvantaged in as much as their businesses have closed, or that particular kitchen that they worked out of has closed. And we might see some surge or some transition to home kitchens, which we should need to be prepared. And I think adopting the state code and conditioning these things, restating them, is a way to address those for the future. And of course, tying the serve safe into that would be a great idea, I think.
Of course, it'll still take coordination between the other towns to make sure we can at least secure some of the grant money for the training, but that was just one option we thought of, trying to, rather than just say everyone get the training, let's try to make it a meaningful training and standardize.
I did speak
I
with...
think the go ahead, Maria.
That's me. I did speak with Bridget regarding having a Serve Safe certified person, and she's done it in past towns that she's worked in, so she has some material she said that she could share with me as well.
Okay, you were going to say something, Dr. Bichetti?
Yeah, I was saying, I think also in our search for someone to help with the town serve safe, we definitely had come across a person that we had discussed in our meetings that is well versed in trainings and standardized, and actually currently does in the immediate surrounding areas, and has for the past 20 plus years, maybe 25 years, done serve safe training classes. He had been doing that at the Tech for many years. That's where I took my course, and we may want to revisit speaking with him as well, because he is a well-known person in the area. And from standardization, I can only speak for my own personal, when I took the class with a few other people that were in the restaurant field, and as I said, I took the class just so I knew exactly what was involved in the process of the food preparation business, and actually had taken the management. So I guess technically I could open a restaurant with what I have acquired with my certificate. But I just think that standardization is going to be key. And as I said, sadly, we have learned in the past, more, if nothing else, in the past year, more likely the last 6 months, of the inadequacy of some online trainings, because we actually have evidence of people not following the guidelines, and they said they were fully aware of them for ServSafe. So I think that refresher, just like as you're aware, Chairman Barry, CPR review, it never hurts to review and refresh, and the costs are nominal. And one breach would cost much more to a facility than the cost of just repeatedly getting classes renewed and having training. And possibly, from a standpoint, if we can coordinate classes and have that standardization, there may be some economies of scale that would allow the cost of this training to be somewhat reduced for people in the area, because ultimately everyone needs to renew their certificates periodically. And I think it would be great to have an ongoing, long-standing, standardized course. So I'm all in favor of that, and I think that we should, pursue that reality.
And just one administrative thing for you, Dr. Boucher, so you're aware, the grant that the 3 towns share is administered by the Tingsboro Health Department. So I'm sure Director Sullivan can give you the contact there. So if you, again, we'll have to get prepared, but unlike the food consultant that we're using, or the resident consultant we're using now, that was done through the town. This would not be done through us directly, but through the town of Tingsboro.
Well, that's great. I mean, we can maybe, see if the person would be interested in speaking with them in Tingsboro. As I said, I think the best thing is to have someone that has a lot of experience in the food service, a lot of experience teaching it, and can answer the questions that sometimes the answer is a little more involved. And as Member Scarano, Attorney Scarano said, making the sanitizer is a key critical step in the process of maintaining infection control. So I'm okay. Shannon can give some insight, or see if it's see what Tingsboro. Maybe they have somebody that is in a similar role. But regardless of who it is, I think it would be best to offer those classes and have standardization amongst all the communities. I'm pretty sure we've got to be close anyway.
Okay, well, thank you for your feedback. Okay, Director?
So a COVID-19 update. Currently, the town has an increase of 39 cases from last week. As we know, the Delta variant is the most prevalent right now. I pull the numbers weekly, put them on the town's website, so if anyone wants to see the breakdown, they're up there. We're currently monitoring the CDC guidelines. At this time, we're not taking any further steps, and neither is the state.
just had one follow-up question on that. Do we also receive data regarding hospitalizations associated with the increase in the Delta transmissivity?
So the state puts out numbers of the hospitalizations, but we don't know. They don't test every sample for Delta. It's like a slim pickings. Every so often they choose one, and if it is, then they report that. But if not, then there's no way really of knowing if it's Delta or not. But it's the most common right now, is what the state tells us.
And there was one other point. They are testing surge flows and finding the Delta variant heightened presence in treatment plants. So for the public out there, that is a leading indicator on what direction numbers travel. And I don't know if our own Duck Island does that or not, but MWRA from Wilmington, et cetera, that area is being looked at carefully, almost on a daily basis, testing-wise, to determine what increases are coming from the north, south, east, and west. I don't know whether that's happening with Duck Island, but I'd like to know that. Thank you.
And then one of the questions that you asked, I just wanted to bring up a good point. The state, while they keep track of hospitalizations, there is no way that they're able to track that back to the local community. So as we see the numbers are increasing, we have 39 new cases, the state does not have the way of metrics of letting us know what would the severity of those 39, were they minor or were they requiring hospitalization? So as people hear the numbers, don't read fear into the numbers, but you still have to be cautious. So we don't have that insight because the state does not keep track of that.
From what I was reading on the CDC today, if you're vaccinated, you're less likely to shed the virus as longer if you're unvaccinated. So.
Okay. Another thing I'd like to add to that, then, if the state's not keeping track of these numbers and people are coming in, they could very well be people that are crossing the border illegally, being transported to our state, having the ability to inflate these numbers, although the symptoms may be less severe and less hospitalizations. So it's kind of like, I think, when we look at these numbers and we all are aware that we have to have concerns, I think we should take everything with a grain of salt, because if the state's not keeping track of the numbers and they have no idea who's coming into the state, not even our communities, then all we can do is try and be vigilant and hope that the severity of these cases, hospitalization, doesn't increase. Because right now it seems to me that there's a lot of misinformation out there, and from a person of science that deals with it every day, even I have to wade through some things that are difficult to comprehend. So I think all we can do is be aware of these numbers, but possibly take them with a grain of salt too. I think when the hospitalizations, maybe the mortality rates go up, I think then I might be more concerned. Not that I wish that, but that's sad facts, because some of the symptoms appear to be minor. We haven't. Shannon, are you aware of, have we had any numbers from any of the local hospitals? There's been an increase of mortality, or we're pretty much been stable? Because the numbers that I'm getting, it looks like the regular flu has been causing even more mortalities than what we're seeing with COVID right now. So have you had any numbers that they've shared with the Board of Health Directors from hospitals and the mortality rates?
I don't have any of that information, but I was on the Academy of Pediatrics this afternoon, and I noticed that the hospitalizations for children are very, very low. So that's the only information.
Exactly. That's what I had been aware of. And the other thing that's sad that isn't reported, because every case is unique, some of these some of these young children have comorbidities, because the wonderful thing about the world we live in today is many people can live a happy, thriving, successful life with the drugs and medications. So when these numbers come out, we don't have any idea of how immunocompromised they are and what kind of medications they may be on. But the good news is, as you said, the American Academy of Pediatrics has very low numbers, so that's good. And as I said, the whole purpose of my mentioning this was just that. I think we have to take everything with a grain of salt. We have to be cautious. We have to, be wary in moving forward. But we also, we can't be super fearful of the boogeyman or these numbers that, in actuality, may not be as scary, for lack of a better term, right now that I can think of, than and to cause more fear. So I'm glad to hear the good stuff, and I'm glad to hear we haven't had any mortality. So, but thank you for giving me that information, Shannon. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
And while we're on the subject, we did have a special Board of Health meeting last night about COVID, and at that, we had indicated that we would hold a follow-up meeting 2 weeks from tomorrow, which would be Friday, September 3rd. So I would just like, while we are all here, to poll members. We can do this as a virtual meeting, and I realize it's the Friday before holiday weekend, but do people have a preference of what time would be good for them? Realizing Shannon's going to get the numbers in the morning, and then she's going to need to get them prepared and out to us so we have a chance to look at them before the meeting. So I'm looking at maybe like an early afternoon meeting if, but you're also on the job site.
I have a pen. Be available.
Okay,
I can get the numbers typically by like 9 a.m., so
okay.
whatever time works for you guys.
So,
Well, we could tentatively schedule it for 1 or 2 o'clock then, assuming that everyone may be traveling or leaving or have plans. If Shannon has the numbers at 9 a.m., it would seem to me immediately after lunch might be the time to convene and go over the numbers and be able to post those numbers for the weekend, have a short discussion on the trends and directions, and schedule another meeting right there and then.
yeah, so Dr. Bichette, did 1 o'clock on Friday, September 3rd work for you?
Yes, I was going to propose that would be a time that I believe would be convenient for me, if it would be convenient for the other board members.
Okay, we're just having one member check.
You said 1 o'clock, correct?
Yep.
Yes, that's fine.
Okay.
I have a question about COVID, and it's not really specific to any of you that have to answer this question right now. It's just something that's I think about, because I keep hearing people talking about, yeah, but the death rate, the death rate, the death rate. And my question is, what is an acceptable death rate to everybody? I think that's something that really that needs to be considered. Is it 100,000? Is it 500,000? Is it 1,000? Is it 2 million? What is an acceptable death rate for people to realize that this actually exists and it's not a hoax? I'm just curious. So you don't have to answer that, but I just wanted to put that out there.
I think
I would say 0. I would love to say 0 would be an acceptable death rate, but based on all the different criteria and the vagaries of the information that we're currently getting, it would be great 0 for death rate for anything, Maria. Right now, all I do know is that things were under control for a bit. There's been an increase of a new variant that's out there, and I always like to say, am I going to believe my lying eyes or what people are telling me? And when I look at the conflicting information coming, I see people that are vaccinated. I see some people unvaccinated, but I see them practicing good social distancing and good hygiene, and that's been great because people are back to doing what we should have done when our mom told us that years ago. Wash your hands, cover your mouth when you cough, and all the good etiquette that helps keep us from getting more sick. But as I said, I would love to have a 0 death rate from these, but sadly, there's no statistic that's going to come, and we don't have all the numbers, but I do know that with all the increase in COVID right now, it's like it's hard to say where it's coming from. And as I said, I'm seeing a lot of people that have COVID plus much more severe diseases coming into the country and being allowed to migrate or being transported throughout the country and even into Massachusetts and other states. And I do travel quite a bit. And so I am like, we have to be cautious, but the death rate is the only thing I can tell you. I mean, people are going to get a cold, you might get sniffles, you might feel a little uncomfortable, but I always look at it as if you resolve and get better, your immune system is doing what it's supposed to be doing. So sadly, there's always going to be some negative numbers, but I think the only way we can really judge where we're going with this is, you know, the severity of the cases. Are they getting real severe or are they minor cases? And ultimately, I think the mortality rate is always going to be an indicator of where things are going. And currently, if we just have some information from Shannon regarding the pediatric, the Society of Pediatric Physicians, and the numbers are down. So I think we're just going to have to wait and see. I would much prefer 0. But that's not the real world. I mean, it's just not. So there's just too many variables, too many people, unique medical situations, and I think we just have to be, you know, cognizant of that fact and be aware and do what we can do best for our community, because our community has its unique characteristics. Other communities have different variables that may make them more at risk or less at risk. So I'm glad our numbers are relatively low right now. But as I said, from what I see, we have a lot of people coming from different areas. And it's like if the state of Massachusetts and the country isn't keeping track of these numbers, then there is some suspect to me of the numbers. So I'm being wary. But I'll leave it at that. I think we understand where we're coming from. I'd rather be no deaths, but that's not the real world.
Thank you.
I have 2 points on that issue. One is that there's a difference with hospitalizations. There are people in the hospital with COVID, and there are people in the hospital because of COVID. There's a difference, okay? And you can't just look at straight hospitalizations as some indication. It's an indication that there's treatment going on, but it isn't an indication of how they got there. Number 2, there are alternatives to the vaccination. And I think people have arrived at a plateau of mask, separation, vaccination, when we all know that there are alternative methods to treat, including ivermectin, remdesivir, codicozin, I think it is. Yeah, those are out there, and they're still available for people who are unvaccinated and need an alternate course of treatment. So the fact that they can't get vaccinated, or they're susceptible to something because of a vaccination, these other treatments are out there. And to be honest with you, there seems to be some suppression of the information that they're available. And I want to make it clear as a Board of Health member that just because the information is being suppressed doesn't mean that these treatments aren't available, and through medical and through physicians that are qualified to give these treatments. So the fact that you have and you think that the only way through this is a vaccination is not entirely true. there are other alternatives, and people should be looking at those alternatives. And they shouldn't be thinking of it as not available because the information around it's being suppressed. You want to find out about that stuff? Go to the Israeli websites. See what they're doing. Check that information. If you want to see an advancement on the merits of determining what this disease is doing, that's a good resource. So I just implored people to go out there and research this. Don't just Google it. Do the legwork that's necessary to protect your families, to protect those people that can't get them. Look in alternative areas for this information. If you feel that the information is not as reliable as you would like it to be, and that may very well be the case, please go to the next step. There are other resources and there are other treatments that all should be considered, because this is a fight against this pandemic. It's not a fight using one or two methods. As it relates to that death rate, I think that everybody that takes that kind of approach can reduce the death rate in their families, in the people around them, in their businesses, and they do not simply have to adhere to CDC guidelines to do that. There are other things out there with the CDC guidelines.
And there's comparative analysis available as to what I alluded to last night, which was, for instance, last year there were 438 cases of death for kids 18 and under. Pardon me?
Talk to the mic so they can hear you.
There's comparative analysis available out there where you can, you know, like you said, how many deaths are okay? None. But there's going to be deaths, like Tony alluded to. I mean, this is the real world. Last year, there were 438 deaths from the flu for children under 18 to birth. People get sick, people die. In the case of the COVID for that same age group, there was a minuscule amount of kids that got sick and died because of COVID. So you got to kind of take what's out there and figure out your own way of understanding what's good or bad. Death is not good for anybody. That's not. But there is a way to look at this. Figures don't lie, but lie is figure. And if you don't get the rest of the story from what you're looking at, like you got to look a little bit further into some other analysis. And I had one question regarding, so this new Delta variant is out there. So I go get a COVID test, and if I get COVID, I've got the Delta variant, or is there a way to specify with that test what is Delta and what is traditional COVID, or is this now Charlie's COVID and this is Frank's COVID and Alpha, what is it?
They don't test every COVID test to make sure what variant it is. So unless yours is the special one that gets chosen,
Yeah,
you don't know.
I mean, so it's all, Delta, more contagious, it's more. Is that a true statement, or are we just supposing, or are we?
That's what the state says.
That's what CDC and the state says? That's what
Because it
CDC?
spreads faster than,
I'm going right back to where I was last night. I mean, they're an appointed board, and the only science that they seem to line up with is political science, and I'm not there. I don't know. The Delta variant, now there's another variant coming in. Ooh.
it mutates.
I think the point is that you have alternatives to determine what is out there and what can be done for you and your family.
They're scaring the hell out of people is what they're doing, and people are reacting based on fear, and you get people that are not thinking correctly because it's like this, it's like a marketing program for COVID. Everybody get afraid, everybody run, everybody hide, what are you doing? So anyway, that's all I'm gonna say about that.
Well, going back to the alternative availability of information, don't sell yourself short.
Right.
Don't just Google it. Go to reliable sources. Other countries have provided tremendous amounts of resources and have tremendous amounts of information if you search the correct way using non-traditional search engines, which may be very well what Charlie's talking about. A lot of it's blocked, a lot of it's suppressed. Get out there and look at it and make those considerations and those values your own and make your own decisions. While it's great relying on government information, the CDC, there's even an argument right now between the WHO and the CDC as to whether or not the entire world should be vaccinated and the United States should slow down on this booster shot. Again, with these types of conflicts, you need to be diligent in your own research. And that's my point, and I think where Charlie's going with this.
Okay, so let's move on. The other date we're going to have to set a meeting is we need to have a one-item agenda meeting next week. And that would be an evening meeting. So potentially looking at maybe next Thursday evening is one possibility if people are available at like 6 o'clock.
Thursday is also zoning board meeting at 6. Are we meeting?
Is it a virtual meeting?
No,
No.
no.
So
And
is
we'll have to find a,
There's another room we can use.
yeah.
I don't know if will we be lucky enough to make all of the necessary advertisement if we went for Wednesday instead of Thursday? Shannon?
So it's 48 hours, right? And then serving the letter? Maybe? I would think so.
I wouldn't see Wednesday as completely out of
Okay.
the running, just to avoid the conflict that,
It's not a conflict for me. Is there another room we can use? I mean,
well, we want to avoid that conflict too. We want to avoid having the zoning board running at the same time. If we could do this on Wednesday, we might be better off.
meet before the zoning.
Just see what else is on.
5.
Dr. Bichetti, would you be available to meet Wednesday at 6? It could still be a hybrid meeting if you're not able to be here in person.
I will be out of town, but I'll gladly make a phone call as I have been. I appreciate the IT department at the town creating these links. I apologize, but I can't be there. But 6 o'clock, I'm usually still finishing up work. So yeah, but that's fine.
Okay. And unfortunately, I can't tell you why we're meeting, but we just need to set that time to get things in motion. Mr. Rue, any problem with 6 on Wednesday?
I have a couple of things I've got to do late in the afternoon, but I will have my phone with me. I've done this before.
Okay. Yeah, it's not required that everyone needs to be here in person, but at least as many of us can be available. Be good. Okay, so let's look at Wednesday at 6 with checking the availability of this room.
We said Wednesday at 6?
Wednesday at 6.
Okay. I think I'm all right there.
That's if the letter can go out tomorrow, because we have to have the meeting posted tomorrow for us to meet on Wednesday.
And that's really the plan.
Yeah, okay.
Organization working to build a better Maine. Michael has maintained the statewide
Okay.
business law practices.
Sorry to keep hijacking your director's report.
Oh, that's it for me.
We've got a lot accomplished during the director's
We
report.
did.
Yeah. Half a meeting. Okay. So, Mr. Rue, twice in a week you get to make a motion.
This is my favorite part of the evening, Ray. I'd like to make a motion that we close tonight's meeting.
Okay, who'd like to second the motion to adjourn?
I'll second it.
Okay, motion's been put forth and second to adjourn tonight's meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And Dr. Bichetti? Your vote?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well, so the motion carries unanimously. So it is 7:06 PM. Good night, Tewksbury.